Man, thanks for doing this and at a late hour. What's it been like as far as quarantine and stuff goes? Has it been like a dream, like just being home with her all the time, or has it been difficult, mix of both?
My wife and I are still working. So my wife is a nurse,
Oh, of
and
course.
so she's working 3 days a week, and I'm working from home mostly, but kind of have to just get in this room and shut the door. My mom comes over and watches her 3 days a week.
Yeah.
But like with that being said, so that like we're not home 24/7 like a lot of people are. But
Yeah.
with that being said, I'm like being home, just working from home has been amazing. Like she's in a stage right now of growing and changing so much. Like she's 14 months, so she's talking a lot and walking and getting into things, and like her little personality is just coming out. Like
I
the other
love
morning
it.
we were just like chilling before I started working, and she wanted to gather all her stuffed animals. I don't know if you saw my Instagram about this.
I didn't.
She wanted to gather all her stuffed animals, put them on the couch, like line them up, like pose them, and then she like told me I want to get up there, essentially like screamed at me, wanted to get on the couch, sat with them and posed, like smiled, and wanted me to take her picture. and then and then she wanted me to get up with her, and I took a selfie, and it was like the first time she'd ever posed and just smiled, you know. And I was like, "You're not a little baby anymore. You're a little girl." Like it's so
Wow.
crazy, dude.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah,
so
it's been
special.
really really fun.
That's good. That's so special. One thing that you said when remind me her name, Olive?
Yeah, Olive.
I knew it. I'm always so scared to get people's names wrong that I just assume I don't. But let the record show I knew her name and it was
Oh
Olive.
yeah, dude.
Like someone can be 9 months pregnant, like walking like this, and I'm still scared to ask if they're pregnant.
100%, bro.
Like just what if they're not? I'm just too scared. Anyway, but you said something when Olive was born. She was probably I feel like it was within the first month.
Yeah.
Um, and I said, "How is it?" And as someone who is uh, without a child, and kind of all I hear in interviews, in like joking talk and serious talk, like all I hear everyone say is, especially that Chandler and I are about to get married. Everyone's like, wait to have kids, wait to have kids, don't have kids, you have kids and then your life's over, da da da. And you just kind of hear that all the time, and but it's worth it, kids are great, kids are great. And just that's kind of the general thing you hear. And then I remember talking to you and be like, how is it crazy? And you said something that stuck out to me so much. You said, it's been great, man, I wish we would have done this earlier. And
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, really? And you talked about how you saw like different sides of Sarah, of yourself, of like just how fun it was, how fun she is, and that I remember you saying that and being like, oh, that's so interesting. The idea of like, man, I wish we'd have done this already.
Yeah, bro. I mean, that's kind of how we've lived our married life, is just like, if we're gonna do this, let's make the best of it and see the good in things, and
Hmm.
not like denying the challenges and not denying like there's hard days. But it was like as soon as we had Olive, both of us were just like our eyes were opened in this new way to just our worldview. Really, like I realized at least how selfish I was
Hmm.
before,
Hmm.
and like when you have this little human who you're in charge of, and like you see life in, and then like what you said, like the way that it changed my wife was so beautiful, and this whole new like motherly, nurturing, sweet side came out of her that I'd never seen when she interacted with Olive, and it was like, man, I fell in love with her in a new way. And it's not denying that there's hard days, and it changed the dynamic of our lives a lot, but it's made it so much more beautiful and so much
Hmm.
more um, even just complex and like diverse. Our life is just always exciting now. There's always something new.
Yeah.
She's changing all the time, and man, God's just spoken so much to me in this season,
Hmm.
like so clearly. And I've just had, it's like literally I have more revelations when it's like midnight and she's screaming her head off, and I'm holding her, and God's just like, sometimes you're like this, or whatever it is, like I just
Yeah.
feel like because usually I'm just praying like, God, like give me peace right now.
Yes.
But yeah, man, it's been such an amazing season, and we're really, really thankful and grateful.
Goals. Goals, goals, goals,
Oh,
goals.
you're on the goals,
Baby,
bro.
mom and dad, husband, wife, goals.
I'm just
I
embracing dad life, dude. Like I was out staining my fence earlier today. I enjoy mowing the yard now. I never enjoyed mowing the yard.
Whoa. Man, dad life strong. Oh, I love it. That's good. That's another example of taking whatever it is and making the best of it.
That's right, bro.
So as I'm curious, because first of all, um, let's say, let's what's the word I'm trying to say? Establish. Let's establish how we met. Do you remember how we met? Do you remember when we met?
I don't remember like
I remember exactly, and it's just
I remember the
because
first time we hung out. It was a barista parlor, right?
yes.
Yeah.
And before that, how that happened is I had been going to the Belonging for a bit, and I don't know if I think I've told you this. We've talked enough for I bet this has come up. But when I first started going to the Belonging, like my first time, because there's huge buzz about it. I mean, there's huge, like everybody's talking about it, and it's a big deal. Still is. When I was first starting to go, like I just went because you could not go. Everybody's talking about it, and I knew all these friends that were going that were never ones to go to church, and so I was like, all right, let me see what it is. And I was looking for a church myself, so
Yeah.
I went and I walked in, and the first time I went, I actually did not like it. Have I told you this before?
Yeah, you have.
I did. And it was fully on my own issues of being in ministry for a long time and feeling jaded and doubting and judging on things that made no sense. Like I just for some reason I saw like all the fancy lights and everybody looked so cool and the music was so good. I was like, oh, this is one of those like soft churches where I bet they believe everybody goes to heaven and it's just really simple and easy, and it's one of those like I bet. And
Mm.
and again, I'm embarrassed to even say it 'cause it's like how silly of a thought to have from looking at the worship stage and the fact that there were cool lights and a lot of people in there that weren't typically church people.
Yeah.
And that like Pastor Henry had a flat bill hat on. I was like, oh, I get it. Oh, I know what this church is about. How ridiculous.
Flat bill. Of course he has a flat bill on.
We get it. Black is in. Okay.
Yeah.
And I did, I left, and I was like, whatever, not feeling it, which is stupid. Anyway, not feeling it. And I went to like California and went to this church, and I loved this. I went to just to visit. A friend was going, and I loved it. And I was like talking to the pastor afterwards. I was like, man, I really loved your sermon. I wish I went. I wish I lived here, or I'd go to this church. Just making conversation and complimenting him on the church. And he said, oh, where do you live? I go, Nashville. He goes, you should check out the Belonging. Have you tried the Belonging yet? And I was like, yeah. It's great place. Yeah, check that out. I was like, yeah, I should. I went to New York. Like 2 weeks later, I was in New York. And I went to, I can't remember the church name. I think it was Tim Keller's church, actually, which is a different denomination, like a different, like, typical group of like the church homies, like in the denomination and stuff. than the belonging is. And so I was there and I was like, and I talked to somebody like the associate pastor or somebody there. I was like, man, I wish if I lived here, I would totally go here. Da, 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 da. And they're like, oh, where do you live? It's like, oh, I live in Nashville. And they're like, you know what? I've heard a lot of good things about the Belonging Co. Have you heard of that? Have you been there before? And I'm
It's
like,
amazing.
oh my gosh, I'm at a
So crazy.
Presbyterian church. I think it's
Yeah.
Presbyterian. I'm like, what in the world is going on? I finally come back, and I think it's like again, I think it's like this soft church or whatever. And then some things go down, and there's like prayer, like the whole service is prayer, and like have this encounter, and different things happen where I'm like, oh, okay, this is my church, and this I'm an idiot, and I repent of this stupid judgment and stuff. I walk down to talk to Henry, and Henry's like, I'm like, hey man, I don't know what I'm saying. Because also Henry's so cool, so I'm like so
So
intimidated
cool, man.
with his flat bill hat and everything,
Yeah.
and
Got a
and
real thing about the flat bill.
it's
Hey, Pastor
like,
Henry, love your flat bill.
how's your flat bill? So I go up to him like, hi, my name's Clark, and I just really appreciate it. And of course, he gets these every single service. He gets 4 people that do exactly what I did, and I was like, I don't know. I just feel really led to serve and work around here. And I said to him, I literally was like, do you? I don't know if you do this or not. Like, do you want to get coffee or something? And he was like, oh man, I'm so glad you're here. Hey Andrew, and then like
Yeah.
pulled you over, like this is Clark and da 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 da. And he was on Idol and he knows Danny and Colton and so, and he knows some people. Like you guys go to coffee or something. And you're like, okay, great. And then we went to the barista parlor, and that's when we met. So it was a
That was the
momentous
beginning of an
time
epic
for me.
friendship.
What's that?
That was the beginning of an epic friendship, bro.
Epic, epic. And to be real, before we get into other like music things, you have been such a significant voice of God in my life in times when I really needed it. So epic is the perfect word, is the perfect word. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, bro.
As a worship leader, have you always grown up listening to like that genre of music, like worship stuff, or was there another genre of music you dug into and really liked when you were growing up? Like, how did you start as a music fan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a good little church boy. I grew up in church my whole life, and my dad's a pastor. Um, so literally, like, was born and got taken to the church, kind of thing. My dad's been a pastor my whole life, and but the crazy thing is, neither of my parents are musical at all. Like,
Really? Wow.
really. So, but since I was a baby, they say, or since I was really, really little, I was just sing. I would always be singing, and it would just kind of be in me. Never like they weren't singing, you know what I mean? Like they probably listen to music every once in a while, but it just like always been in me. Like they always tell this story, how your parents just tell stories all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But how I was like really young and to get in a barber shop and this barber was cutting my hair, and he said like they were like he cut my hair and they brought me back and he's like he's always singing like the entire time I'm cutting his hair he's just humming and singing, and they're like, do you know you're singing? And I was like, I don't know I'm singing. Like I said, no, I don't know that I'm singing. It was just like in me.
Oh, I love it.
So which is wild, like because my parents aren't musical and they don't sing, but I was always in church. That was my context for music, and always just like had a passion for it. I was always doing the solos, the little kids singing the songs on
Mm-hmm.
stage during the special moment at church,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of just always like I played sports when I was really really young, but realized pretty quick that I wasn't going to go far in that because I'm pretty short and not super athletic. You play basketball with me, unlike you, bro.
No.
And I kind of just realized like this is what I love to do. This is what makes me feel alive. It's singing in church at the time. That was what I always did, and really started like pursuing it. Started taking lessons on guitar, and started just when I was like 14, 15, started leading worship in house churches. and started leading worship in my youth group, and literally haven't stopped leading worship since then. So,
Wow.
but like as far as like inspiration, like it probably until I was, in my teenage years, I just listened to worship music up until then, and then started hanging out with people and they were listening to other kind of music, and so I've always had a love for pop music. I loved Coldplay when I was like everyone else when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
But like college, I started getting into R&B. I think that was when we started hanging out. We kind of connected on that a bit
Mm,
and talking
sure.
about R&B music, and so I do have a lot of love of music. But worship has always been what I've done
That's
as
the
a musician, as a
foundation.
singer.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that, man. Like, there's part of me that wishes I would have had a greater taste in music as a young kid, but there's also a part of me that feels like it was a setup by God. And
Totally.
um, yeah, man. So
Well,
just a good old church kid.
what's great what's great about that is on a practical level, like so many songs. Like so many worship songs. Like I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's really not a song that someone's gonna be like, oh, let's do this, or oh, I'm feeling this, or whatever that you haven't heard before, or that you haven't played before. That like that was one thing about me when I started like helping out on the worship team at
Yeah,
at the belonging. As in the beginning I was like, talk about like definitely feeling like the imposter syndrome type thing, and like
right.
I was like, I don't know, like the only worship songs that I know well enough to lead are the ones that I learned for today. So sorry, like you want me to you're thinking of doing another one, like good thing there's another person leading, because like I don't, the only songs I know are the ones I learned for today. Um, and
Good
which
thing
is
you're
why
so
like
just crazy talented that you can just figure it out in a second. So
mm, eh,
I've seen
yeah,
you do it, bro.
I don't know. I've seen you move.
Yeah, there you go. Come on.
I have the what I think is the coolest arrangement idea for that song that I've been dying to do for so long, and it just hasn't been right yet. But you know how strong that song, like I've seen you, ga 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 ga, you moving, bum bum bum, like that hits and grooves so sweet,
Yeah.
and the message is, oh my gosh, makes me want to run through a wall. And I feel like it'd be so dope if at the end of a song, whatever it is that ends on 4,
Yep.
to just be like, I've got my keyboard actually right here. Be like, it's like, right, there's the ending on the 4, and just be like, I've seen you move, just or not diamond, but just trash can. You move the mountains. One, I believe. And then kind of chill out. I see you do it again. Just sweet, nice. There was no way. And then start pumping up. Click comes back, like a new tempo, whatever tempo we're gonna do, it comes back.
Yeah.
It's like, I believe. I see you do it again. Pop, you made a ga 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 ga.
Yeah,
Like,
totally, bro.
that'd be
Come on.
so epic. Like, oh, people, like that'd be
Yeah.
so strong.
Heck
And
yeah,
it's
bro.
and
Next
I'll
week I steal that and I do it and
do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. I don't care, do it. I just want it done. It just needs to
that's
happen.
amazing.
Because that's the
I
thing with
love it.
like, okay, this kind of brings us into like the question, um, where do we? There's a lot of churches and some churches that I grew up in. If you sing, um, often if you sing to the best of your ability, or if you play to the best of your ability, or you put together a really dope arrangement of something with hits or with whatever, with chord changes or something like that, there are some cultures in church that look down upon that and think and say like, okay, well, you're taking away the spotlight from God, and you're trying to just have it shine on you, or you're being. One thing I love about the belonging is the belonging gives you freedom as a worship leader to praise God the best you can. Like when Danny crushes and like gives some growl and dirt in his voice and then a run, I want to lose my mind. And the
Yeah,
belonging is like Henry and Alex, like the culture they've, and yourself, and the culture that you guys have built is like
totally.
promotes that and is down for it. But what's the is there a balance? Is it just a different way of thinking, like between go for it, between you just want to focus on God and don't make anyone think about yourself when you're singing? Like how do you balance that?
I don't know if it's a balance as much as it is just a priority list. Like for
Mm,
us, the main priority is always like, let's have an encounter with God that changes everything. Let's give God the glory and minister to him because he's worthy. That's the number one. But that doesn't discount all the other things that come after that, because there's certain things that lead to that encounter.
mm,
There's a reason why we have music in church, because it moves us, like
yeah,
God made music and it moves us. And
that's
so
so
like
good.
the moment you do the thing that you just did, both of us are moved, our spirits are moved because there's an anointing on that, and you have an anointing, you know what I mean?
That's so good.
So we're doing the people and ourselves, the people in the room and ourselves, a disservice if we're not taking what God's given us, the gifts that we have and what we've worked so hard to work towards, and using that to lead us and the people in the room to an encounter with him.
Yeah.
And like that's what, honestly, like it's been so fun you leading at church, because I feel like every time you lead, you take another step of like of just bringing Clark, who you actually are, into your leading, which is like what is still super normal. That happened to me too, where it's like the beginning you're like, I'm just here, I'm gonna try to figure this out, and then slowly you're like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
But I love like you're just bringing, always have ideas for arrangements and changing things up and bringing new chords and new progressions and new whatever it is. And I think you feel that, like you feel it because you were made to do that. Like that's what you were made
Mm,
to do. And everyone in the room feels it, or whoever's watching now online, because we're in quarantine, but they feel that, and
yeah.
it's just as long as the priority is there, like, God, we want to have an encounter with you. Let the things we do in this service lead us to that. And it's special. Like, and I think that's the thing. You hear a lot of people talk about like, well, worship music's the same. It's always been the same, or like it's not progressing, and it's like that's not, or you're not, it's not creative enough, or whatever those things are. And it's like, I want to live my life as a worship leader, as a worship songwriter, with that priority first. Like what I want to have an encounter with God. I want to write a song today. I want to lead a set today that leads people into an encounter with God. But then what comes after that is I want to do that to the best of my ability and make it amazing. Like I want
Yeah.
to like make it something that's inspiring and make it something that I want to sing, that I want to play. And it doesn't have to be one or the other. Like I think it just makes sure that the one's more important than the other. So we're trying to do that, I think, and I think it's something that we're growing in. I'm growing in as a worship leader, as a leader in general. But it's fun, man. It's super fun when it's people like you leading, because you
Oh,
guys crush it.
thank you. No, that you said, I think something, I mean, you said a lot of things really, really,
Mm,
really, really good there and poignant. But I think the one thing that hit me the hardest and like oh, duh, and like well, that's it. There's no more argument. It's over. Is when you said music moves us. That's why God put it in church. Like that's why it's there.
yeah,
You know?
right.
So if like,
Totally.
like when Bernie Herms plays, like he's playing crazy chords and it moves us. And music moves us and it's supposed to. That's why it's in church. Also, we can go down the road where or down the route of saying like God's the author of authorship.
Right.
So it's like you can't Bernie can play a lot of chords, he can play a lot of things that I would have never thought of in a billion years. He can't play anything that God hasn't already thought of. every chord progression, every change, every major 9 chord, God's already thought of that. God's already been like, this would be dope, and there it is.
Right.
So I,
And the thing is, there's not a formula. You know what I mean? Because I think
mm,
it's easy to start comparing yourself. And I can sit and compare myself to Bernie or you and be like, I don't know any of the chords that those guys know. But I'm actually just discounting myself and not allowing myself to step into the anointing that God's given me, where I
that's
can sit at
good.
this piano and just play and C. That's all I know how to play on the piano. But if I'm
Yeah.
doing it out of a heart that's like, God, I just want to have an encounter with you, and I want to step into the anointing you've given me, the authority you've given me, then there's going to be something on that. You know what I mean? There's going to be something, but he's
Yeah.
going to move through me. He's going to move through his sons and his daughters. And I think that's what we have to start pulling ourselves out of, is like, man, I don't want to compare myself to ABC. God, like, come do something new tonight in me, through me.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And he's made so each of us so specific, and he's given us each of us such a specific authority and anointing. And we weren't meant to, I wasn't meant to walk in what you were meant to walk in, and vice versa, you know? So
Yeah. That's
it's pretty beautiful.
that's that's so good. Um
Yeah. But that's
that's
what I think, like, what we feel that when you come to our church, because we've done our best to like allow the freedom of whoever's leading, whoever's speaking, to step into whatever they're meant to step into. It's not like this is how we lead worship at the belonging, you know? It's actually like, this is
yes.
the priority list. This is what we want to accomplish tonight, is to lift up the name of Jesus
Yes.
and have an encounter with him. That's what we're after. But the way we get there looks different the way sometimes, you know?
Yes. That's good. I remember my first uh I remember my first time leading at the belonging is my first time leading worship in like I don't know, like 7 years or something. I don't know,
Crazy.
just something dumb like that. And and I remember being up there and I'll speak um just frankly, like I'm not leading worship for the first time in 7 years at a a small church in my hometown of White House, Tennessee.
Right.
Like I'm leading worship at the belonging. The belongings worship is like the Mercedes. I'll just speak just how it is. The belonging worship's like the Mercedes Benz of worship. Like belongings worship's pretty freaking crazy. Like you got Carrie Job, you've got yourself, you've got Cody Carnes, you've got Natalie Flippin' Grant, you've got like a ton of monster worship leaders, and the band is always good. The sound's amazing, everything's amazing. And now here I am, and I remember thinking, um, I don't I'm up here and it's the countdown. Like it's countdown's about to happen and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And I remember thinking like, I don't know what Henry and Alex like in worship leading. I don't know what they like. I don't know if I'm going to be what they want. And then I remember having a moment, I mean right after that thought of thinking, but I know what God likes.
Right.
Like I know what he likes.
Totally, man.
I know it. I know what he likes. I do. I know what I do that he likes. And then I remember just thinking, all right, let me just do that.
Right.
And then this total peace coming over me, and then also realizing like that's the only thing that Alex and Henry want. That's the only thing that anybody wants is you to do what you know, like you said, go to the encounter, and that's
Yeah.
encounter God, and that's the top priority.
Yeah,
That's
man.
good.
It's really good. It's interesting because we've been, doing these recorded services for church now, because we all can't go to church. You can't be in a room full of people anymore right now. And I like was really confronted by it in the beginning of like, how am I going to do this? Like leading to no one in the room, because you're used to leading worship with everyone in the room singing along. And I just remember I prayed to God and I was like, God, you're just going to have to lead me, like, and show me, like, give me some revelations. And the first time I was leading, like, I just had this moment where it was like, I realized there's no one here, but God's here. And my whole purpose of why I do this anyway is to minister to him, to bless his heart, to worship him.
Yeah.
And I started growing so much the past several weeks as a worship leader, because I realized, I think I told you this the other day, I realized how much in a bad way I rely on people's response in the room.
Yeah.
And there is part of like leading worship where it's like you want to lead the people, so you have to like see them and like engage with them, and there's part of that and it's important. But there's also part of it where it's just like, man, if you start to worship God and to bless his heart and minister to him, people can't help but respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
And like the spontaneous songs that have come out of this season for me, and just like moments of worship when there's no one in the room where just the cameras are on, has been insane. Like probably
Mm.
there's been a better flow and like that for me than I've ever had.
Wow.
And it's literally just simply going, God, like I just want to bless your heart today. And if that in 4 weeks from this plays, hopefully that will translate on a screen from someone's house. And it has.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, it has. That's great. Going back to music moves us. That's why God put it in church, and like we need, chords and the extra things that we all carry, like showing the light that is inside of us that God made. As far as when Danny's doing or Natalie's singing, Natalie's been singing a lot of runs lately. Am I weird, or like has she been singing more runs in the past like
she's on
four
the top of
months?
her game, bro.
Yo, I
She's
was
holding it all in. She's isolating at home. She's got to get it out.
even even before, I remember being in church. Maybe it was a team night. Maybe that's why she's letting loose even more. I don't think she has. I think she's just all in every time. So I don't. I think she's there, but she sang a full octave run,
Oh, bro.
and it was this run. It was a pentatonic scale from top to bottom. It's what you hear most in gospel stuff. It was just. She's like, just, and I was like,
it's losing your mind.
like no one else is. No, you're able to keep your hands up, worship. Great, good for you. Good, like
So insane, dude.
But staying on topic. Sorry. So if we're into that, and I'm so into that, what about this? Is something that I've wanted that goes right along with that philosophy, right along with that idea that you were just saying that we're talking about, that we agree on. What about instrumental solos? What about guitar solos? I want guitar solos in worship so bad. Not just because I'm like, oh, guitar solos. But I've been in services and like more like charismatic Pentecostal gospel type churches where we used to have a saxophone player. That's all he plays. He just plays saxophone. He's a great keyboard player too, but he plays saxophone. And we would have times in a service, it's like altar call moments, and he'd just come out and play.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, the anointing and the power of God that came through that horn, bro. Like just powerful. And I've like so much of people's voice is when they don't sing is in their instrument, like Austin Goodlow or Derek Dries or so many different people. Do you think guitar solos will ever enter in, or like synthesizer solos, like instrumental solos? Do you think that will ever? Because philosophically, what we've said, it fits right in. Do you think that'll ever come? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I love it, bro. I think it's like it's the same answer, it's like as long as the priorities are there, then there's space for it. And I think it does the same thing as when I open my mouth or you open your mouth to sing. It's just like, man, we got to keep growing and keep moving. It's like I think it's going to be interesting even for us, like as a church, because we're about to step into this new season of having a building, and I think it's going to open up the door for even more things to happen outside of even just normal church services. Like nights of worship and prayer nights, and I just think I think even this season for us as a church as a whole is going to like cause all of us to go, how can we be better? How can we grow? Like, where have we gotten comfortable, And there's areas in that we have gotten comfortable sometimes. And it's like, all right, we don't want to get comfortable. Let's keep pushing ourselves and figure out what that looks like, to have someone rip a guitar solo in the middle of a worship song,
I want it bad, bro.
And do it well, It's got to be you first, though.
I want it bad. What'd you say?
It's got to be you first.
No, that's the best way to make guitar solos never happen again. Is to give me a guitar solo.
Yeah. You
No,
don't want to give me a guitar solo either.
no, go look. I'll tell you what. Go look at my performance on American Idol doing, I think it was Your Man, and listen to my guitar solo, and that will explain to you very thoroughly that you need to make sure that I'm not the guy that does the guitar solo. Yo, one time I was okay, so I was recording in a really nice studio that I was like had no business of being in, but I had the opportunity to be there with no cost to me. So it's like this really cool experience. Um, do you know who Steve Jordan is? Do you know that name?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Steve Jordan was producing this song that I was doing,
Hmm.
and he was playing drums as well. And then Pino Palladino, who is John Mayer's bass player and
Yeah,
D'Angelo's bass player, and a bunch of really, really, really great. He's wonderful.
right.
They had an off day during the John Mayer tour and agreed to come produce and work on this song of mine. Again, it was a Quincy Jones thing, so it's like I just happened to be in the right place at the right time with the right person. And I've got my acoustic guitar, and so I'm tracking acoustic while Steve is playing drums and Pino's doing bass live all at the same time, like all one take, and I'm doing a vocal. I literally do this. I'm like getting my guitar I'm just like line checking, just making sure everything's good and getting the volume right. The song's in this key. And I'm just playing through, and he's like, just keep going, just keep playing for me. And I'm right here. And like Steve and Pino, they got their cans on, they're listening, and it's all right there. And I wanted to be a little extra saucy. Swear on my life, this is what I did. I was right here, and I go like this. And just totally missed like everything. I just decided to change keys because jazz.
Amazing.
I ruined, and on Idol, if you watch that thing, the like exact same thing happened. I just forgot what key to play in. And so all that to say, I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy.
Oh, bro. Whatever. What? That's the same. You told me that story. That's the one where you started playing a John Mayer song and they like jumped in with you, right?
Yes, that's the good part of this. That's the good part of the story. That's the
You should share that. You
non-embarrassing
should
part.
share that story on another podcast.
Except when I started to play the guitar solo, Steve was like, "Ah, it's enough."
That's enough.
I was like,
You had your fun.
yeah, and he's like, okay, yeah, it's okay.
That's amazing, dude.
Okay, couple questions. One, there is an Instagram account that I'm sure you're aware of, called Worship Fails.
Yeah,
They
totally.
terrify me. They follow me, which is terrifying to me because I'm like, they're gonna get me because I give them plenty
They're
of
on the hunt,
opportunities.
dude.
But in all seriousness, I love it. Let them do what they want to do. And I've actually talked to the guy just like on DMs, like, thanks for following me, but please, like, don't pay attention to anything I do, as a joke. So, like, we're totally cool. But as a segue, what are some worship fails in your long, long, long experience of leading worship since you were 14 or 15? Are there any like mishaps that happened that you can think of right now that were like of epic proportions?
I've had plenty. There was one time this isn't like I made a mistake. My nose started pouring bleeding,
Oh, the blood.
like literally just blood gush. Like when I have a nosebleed, it's like bad, like
Ugh.
starts pouring down my face. So I just had to run off stage mid set.
Were you leading that?
Yeah,
Oh,
just like had to run, dude. Luckily, it was like youth group, so it wasn't that big of a deal. To me at the time, it was a massive deal.
yeah, of
There was
course.
another time I was leading this. There was this old Jesus culture song called, I think it was called "Awaken Our Hearts." I don't know if you know that song. It's like kind of a deep cut, But
Mm-mm.
the the chorus goes, "You're awakening our hearts to your kingdom." Um, da, 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 da. And it goes, what does it say? It says, touch our cities and fill your people is the line, like the tag. Touch our cities and fill your people. And I just got my all my letters mixed up, and I just went, touch our titties and fill your
No,
people.
no,
Literally, like
no.
full on, just said it on keyboard, and I just sang it, and everyone heard it. You know what I mean? There's no going
No,
back. And I just kept powering through, just kept going, completely
no.
embarrassed.
Did people respond immediately?
I mean, I'm sure that everyone, it was like in youth group, so it was just so dark anyway, like you couldn't see anyone. But people were just laughing at me.
Oh my,
But
cause some,
we all laughed about it after. It's like one of the worst things you could
oh
possibly say in church.
my. Right when he said touch our cities, I was like, no,
You know where this is
no,
going.
no, no, no.
Uh,
Cause sometimes like
that's the
when
one,
we,
dude.
sometimes when we say something, or like we hear a worship leader or a pastor say something, it makes such little sense in that context that we can hear it clear as day and still be like, I misheard. There's no way they just said what I thought they said. I had a pastor, um, he was telling a story about this woman who came in to church one time in I can't remember. She was of some importance that he explained that there was a woman on the front row, and he was carrying on about and how she was. There's something that said that she was lost because she was like rolling her eyes at everything he said and was being disruptive or something like that, just being something like really obvious like that. And then he said, and I felt the Spirit of God get on me, and she was in the front row. He said, I walked over to her, and what he meant to say was I jumped up on that bench,
Oh, no.
but he didn't pronounce the N so much in the word. And literally everyone was like, he said bench. He said, there's nope, whatever I heard is a lie.
Denying it.
There's no way he just said that. Until, seriously, literally, I was like, he didn't just say that. And then he went back around to it and said, so as I was on that bench, and then made it like really clear that he's like
Right.
said bench. Then it clicked. I was like, oh my gosh, he really did say
He said it.
jumped up on that B
Because
word.
he knew he said it.
Oh my
bro. You
gosh.
just gotta laugh sometimes, you know? Like we take ourselves too seriously.
You're right. Oh my gosh. That was a good one. Okay. Question. Have you ever had like a bad vocal crack or vocal mishap that you have played off as a worshipful noise?
Oh, totally, bro. I mean, my voice cracks all the time.
No. Not that your voice
I don't know if
cracks.
I'm skilled enough to make it work.
Not that your voice cracks, because of course everyone's voice cracks. My voice cracks all the time. Everybody's voice cracks. But I mean, like, and then you tried to play it off like you did it on purpose for like a worshipful noise.
I don't think so. That's a good idea, though. I
Well,
never
that's
thought
good.
of that. I just get so nervous that it happens, and then I'm just like, oh, I gotta get out of this. I gotta move on.
I know. I sometimes will get stuck in a crack, because most cracks like there's a little crack and then your voice. I'll get stuck, and it's literally just like crack. And sometimes if I push hard enough, it'll like click in.
Come back.
And I was leading in youth group, high school. Got stuck in a crack. One of the worst cracks I've ever gotten stuck in. I was stuck deep. And I was pushing and it wouldn't come out. And I was literally like, and I literally went like this. I was asking you this question because I hoped that you'd be able to say yes so I wouldn't feel alone, but I guess I'm alone, which is fine. I literally went like this. Oh, God. Swear. And literally,
Oh
and
god.
there's no way like I convinced anyone. Like there's no everyone had to know. But I was wondering if you'd ever done that, and I guess it's just me that.
No, it's brilliant though. I'm gonna do it now.
Yeah, try it out. See if it
It's really
works.
cool. It's really cool. Have
Uh,
you ever, I don't know if you've ever met someone in our church named Josh Farrow. Have
maybe.
you ever met him? Um, anyway, he like one time gave me a prophetic word about voice cracks. Have I ever told you that?
No.
He like came up to me one night and he's like, "Hey man, like during worship, I just felt like God told me like you don't need to be afraid of voice cracks. Like don't let it hold you back. Like just go for it. None of your voice cracks." But maybe it's like saying like whatever. Like I'm just gonna go for it. Since
I love it.
I've been afraid of voice.
That's so funny. It's that's cool that he felt like the boldness to say that to you. You know.
It's like immediately I was like kind of offended by it. I was like, "Oh, he's saying my voice cracks a lot," and he's like, "No, no, no, like whatever." And then but ever since then, I've legit had a more confidence of
Mm.
just like going for it when I'm leading instead of like trying to make sure I don't try to sing a note that I can't sing. It's just like, all right, I'm just gonna go give it all I've got.
There's a guy that mine does as well. There's a guy that mm, he might be my favorite worship leader, like maybe ever. And you don't like he's not big and famous or anything. He's actually a friend. And a brilliant one of my favorite like worship um songwriters too. His name's Tyler Richardson. And I remember singing like gang vocals or something on his album like in college that he was putting together. And he had this part and where he would go to sing and he cracks on this. We're like singing gang vocals, and then so he has like what we think is a rough, like just a scratch for us to know where to go. We didn't know that it was actually his final vocal, and he cracks in it, like Lord, like
It's
cracks,
amazing.
like
Yeah.
and someone was laughing like, oh my gosh, like that scratch vocal, da da da. He's like, that's the final. Or like what? They're like,
What a baller, dude.
they're like, with that crack, and he literally was just like, freedom.
It's awesome.
And I remember at that time being like, what? But now I'm like, whoa, that's so epic and so cool. And he meant it. He's like, freedom.
Oh yeah, dude.
I can do whatever I want. Like I can crack to God. I can do that. There's no problem.
Yeah. Hey
And
man,
you
I
should
think
check.
people I think people are just like don't care as much as we think they do about stuff like that. You know?
Yeah, and I think it just doesn't matter as much as we think it matters.
Exactly.
It
It
just
really doesn't.
it just
If
doesn't. And
anything, it
on it,
shows there's more passion in what you're doing, you know?
yeah, and I think it also does. It's I think it possibly does more good than sometimes than if there wasn't a crack. Because sometimes, like when you hear someone great showing imperfection or crack, and it kind of like okay, it makes sure you're not stuck in this perfect little mold of a worshipful experience. So it's like, all right, these are people. These are people, and they lose their voice sometimes, or they crack, they whatever. Um, yeah, I agree. And what the ironic thing is when you don't worry about cracking and you go for it, like in with no regard for vocal cracking, you crack less.
Totally.
Like the way you crack is you hold back and you're scared.
Right.
It's like that's the irony,
100%.
and that'll preach as well.
So good.
Um, quickly, and then I'll let you go. Who are a couple people like in the worship music genre that you really admire and look up to? Male or female, like two or three that you're really looking up to, whether it's their songwriting or their voice or like the style of the songs they're doing, whatever.
Yeah. There's a lot, man. But one of the people that like when I was as a kid, like in youth group. I grew up in like a Baptist church, you know, and so there's no context really for like spirit led worship or anything like that. And on YouTube one day, I just discovered this like thing called Jesus culture, and just like dove deep into their music and their videos, and it honestly like put such a passion and a desire for the Holy Spirit in my heart
Mm,
at a super young age. And so I honestly owe a lot to that whole crew of
mm.
people, and a guy named Chris Keelah is like one of the main guys of that. And so he's someone that I've always looked up to. I actually like got to write a song with him, which was like a way crazy,
Wow.
like full circle moment. And it was on
Wow.
like a record, like the record before this last one that just came out.
Oh,
Um, One of those crazy moments, you know, where
yep.
God's just like putting his hand on something.
Yep.
Um, there's also this guy named Jeremy Riddle that I really love.
Yeah.
Everything he says, and I don't know him personally, but he's amazing. There's so many people, man. Like as songwriters, like Matt Redman to me is like one of the best worship songwriters that we've ever known
Yeah.
as a as like a genre or whatever. I look up to him a lot. Yeah.
You know, there's a song by Chris that made me that when you said his name immediately, I saw his name on my iPod when I was 15 and starting to lead worship for youth or I don't know, I wasn't leading worship when I was a teenager. I was just part of the youth group. Our youth like worship team was monstrous and they didn't need any help. Um, but I remember hearing, I can't even remember the song, but I literally just like had that flash of his name on my iPod scrolling because his name wouldn't fit
Totally,
on the
bro.
whole thing. So I was like scrolling
Your iPod video.
and then, yeah. And then, do you remember the song? I don't even know what the song is, but I just remember fire, fall down,
Oh yeah, bro.
fire, fall down on us, we pray. What is that song?
It's Fire Fall Down, but
It's
it's actually a
called.
Hillsong song. That's the crazy thing about them, Jews culture, is they just covered, like in the beginning, they
No
covered
kidding.
songs all the time. Like
God.
most of their songs were covers. And I had no idea. I was like, these guys are just writing these insane songs. But they
Wow.
were like those first like 3 or 4 records were all covers pretty much, but just
I'm
like crazy anointed,
so much so. And what a great name, too. My goodness. Jesus Culture.
right?
Like, talk about songwriting. Like, say exactly what you want to say in a way that no one's ever said it before. Jesus Culture.
Exactly.
Well, brother, thank you so much for doing this and hopping on. You're busy dad. And I love you with all my heart. Thank you for the leadership that you provide for me and for countless other people that you don't know, and then people that are close to you on the worship team and everywhere else. Um, and I'll let you go. But anything you need from me, I'm your guy, except for guitar solo. And
I'll get you that guitar solo. I love you,
don't you
bro.
dare! I'm gonna fake and have Austin Goodlow play behind me
There you
if you
go.
do,
That's what I want.
which would be fine. First guitar solo in worship will be Deception, so that's good.
There you go. Bro, I love you. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be a part of it, and love what you're doing, and know that there's so much ahead for you, bro. Keep going.
Thanks, man.